everybody. Happy Wine Wednesday. Hope you're having a great week and ready to come chat in the middle of it. So, I've got a couple people with me already tonight. I am echoing, aren't I? I can hear it. Hang on, guys. We had a bunch of technical difficulties, so I'm trying to fix her up. I think that fixed it. Let me know if you can hear me, hear them, hear all. That's what I need to know. Say hello, Ray. It's still echoing. All right, hang on, everybody pause, because I got to fix this. All right, let's see if that works better. I feel extremely loud, but at least I don't hear the echo. So y'all tell me how that sounds to you in the audience, please. Lucy, is that you making noises? Okay, that's Ray, I think. All right. Anyways, all right, let's get on with it. Let me know if the audio sounds whack, guys, but bottom line is Happy Wine Wednesday. And tonight I thought, we're just going to have an open chat. It is echoing like crazy. Ray, I think it might be you. You got me muted? Here, you know what, Ray? Disconnect on the main computer.
Disconnect?
On that one, yeah. Sorry, guys, we're learning here as we go.
Okay.
There we go. Now I think we should be good. As long as you don't pull up YouTube. Now we can, you can show us the tank. So show us your tank.
Well, I'm having problems trying to...
This is Ray showing us his aquarium before we get going chatting about.
Too much glare.
Huh?
Too much glare.
I can see it. I think it looks good. Tell me about the tank. Tell me what's in there. Tell me what we're looking at. Point at stuff.
There's only 7 seahorses left now. They call it a 40-gallon tall, but it's only 37 gallons of bulbs. And the only thing live in it is, one's a leather finger, and the other one I don't remember the name of now. I can't get it out of my my tongue.
I think you've told us a couple of times. Sorry.
So it's just.
Go ahead. Uh-oh, I think you froze. But what I was saying is, I don't
know how to cut the light down, cut the glare.
It doesn't look that terribly glary. Maybe try angling downward. Like hold the laptop up and angle. Nope, that's worse. I don't know, that's not too bad. It's not terrible. I mean, I can see the seahorses. They look good. Hey, let me ask you this. Why do you keep the air stone? Why do you keep the air stone in the back?
I have air on all tanks I've ever had.
You know what? Cheryl does too. What's your reason?
Helps for water motion and disturbs the surface so that you get better gas exchange.
Gotcha. I thought it was interesting.
Because your air is CO2 laden, and so it takes more gas exchange to do the same job that you could when you got an open house with fresh air coming in.
Gotcha. No, makes sense. I see the 2 seahorses in the corner kind of looking at you like, where's the food?
Well, they don't get fed till 10 o'clock now.
Well, they are saying that it's time. No, I'm just kidding. So tell me about the equipment.
Show you.
Yeah, show me.
This scrubber.
Tell me how you made it. Tell me what you got going on with it.
Well, it hasn't been set up long yet, but that's the inside part there. And I have air and water coming in at the bottom there. Because I didn't want to buy anything, all this stuff is made with stuff, pieces I have lying around from over the years. And the air pump isn't strong enough to get a good circulation and enough air supply there. So I have a small power head down there pumping the water into there, and then I have the air line going to the output of the power head so that the bubbles do come up here a bit. Allows for a little bit of oxygenation there. And then, yeah, you can't see that with the, I was going to try to show you the LED lights, but I can't because the lights are just too bright. It's 100 watts of lighting. And the container here and on the inside, they're just meat trays from Walmart.
I love it. I love it.
And that pink stuff inside there for the algae to grow on is just stuff I got from the craft store. I think they do, I don't know, macrame or something on them. I forget what they call it. They use wool and make pictures and stuff. And all the other pieces, like the airline pieces and so on, are all stuff that I had lying around from over the years. And I have some channels here that were left over from a bathroom project years ago. It was meant for a shower door, put on the edges of the shower door so that the metal part would be covered. It's got a channel down in it. And so I figured, well, I'll just use it for here. I glued it on the inside of the sump. And now the inside piece there, all I have to do is pull it upwards to take it out instead of using magnets like some people recommend. And on the bottom here is also a piece of that. So I just set this one in. Whoops, I can get it out here now. I set it in the track, and then I took a piece of plastic that was left over from when I made the light for this, the upper light here on the tag, and I just bend it around in a U shape, shove it on there, holds the top of the outside piece in place there, and so the lights shine on it 24/7.
I love it.
Get out of the way, Skyler. So it's on 24/7 now. But it'll take some time to build up the algae on it. But I had that problem before when I did my first one in the other tank in the other room there. But I didn't. The problem I had with the original one that I made is it wasn't contained, so that the light was making algae grow on all the rock in the sump and on the sides. It was all over the place. It wasn't just on the screen that I had.
Jeez. I am completely listening to you. I am just trying to figure out, Lucy's saying there's an echo, so I'm trying to fix that really quickly. Hang on, guys. The communications. I think that might do it. All right, Luce, tell me if that fixed it up. I'm so sorry, guys. Tell me if that fixed it up. Just to let you guys know, if it doesn't get fixed up, I'll keep working on it as we go. But, Ray, I will, retape what you just showed us if it continues to be a problem or if it can't be fixed while we're sitting here talking. And so you said you use what lighting on it? What was the light?
Well, they're just 2 LED bulbs that I bought. They're small. They're spotlight bulbs that are meant to go in some, I think, track lighting, 120 volt track lighting. When I tried to buy the recommended blue and red lights um, with a control unit for them, I can't seem to get any here in London. And when I went online, they didn't seem to know what the hell I was talking about.
Fun times.
And the one guy, I sent him a link. It was on the paper that I had downloaded off of Facebook. The fellow that had put his description of what he did on there.
Did you ever find what the link was?
No, I can't remember where it was now.
See, you got to learn to bookmark those, Ray. No, I'm
it was
just
either on Seahorse Source or it was on Seahorse. What is it called? The English one.
Oh, Seahorse Keeping Made Fun?
Yes. Seahorses Made Fun. It was on one of those two sites.
Awesome.
But like, I don't know how to go back and find things when it's gone a few days past and I can't scroll and find it.
Well, I will have to try to go look myself too, because I'm admin in both of those groups, and so I can probably search it a little bit easier. Hi, Salty, how you doing? We are open chatting. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? What I did forget to do, guys, is put a link up in case anybody wanted to join. So let me do that very quickly. Hey, Ray, I was going to say, since we've got your computer out where you're able to show us stuff, while you were showing us the tank, I was wondering, can you show us and like tell us about the equipment that you use on this tank, aside from the Refugium, the DIY, not Refugium, scrubber? Link up.
Well, that's it.
Anybody wanted to join?
Scrubber is all. I have a power head with a quick filter on it.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in there in the back?
Yep. And yep. Go ahead. And don't you use the pre-filters too?
And there's a heater in there because like my temperature goes down to 14, 15 Celsius at night, which is too cool for horses. So I have a heater in there for that.
Hi, Tina. Hi, Reef Dudes. Come on in and show us your fish and coral in your tank. We're looking at tanks and talking about what we keep in our tanks tonight. Ray, I don't even see the heater. Is it covered? How did you cover it?
Cover what?
Did you cover the heater or?
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. Okay. I see it, and I mean it
does. Just covered with gutter guard. Gutter guard, plastic stuff you put on your eaves troughs to keep the leaves and stuff out.
And I can see you have amazing surface agitation. What is the thing blowing out like wisps? What is that about?
I'm sorry, what was this?
Right in the middle of the tank, there's something that's like blowing out wisps. Or is that just a glare? It could be a glare. What's the middle piece doing?
The only thing in the middle, there's an air line comes down there, and air coming up, another air line over there.
Gotcha.
There's a leather coil here, and I can't remember the name of this coil on the back. It's just a cheapy.
Kenya tree? Could it be a Kenya tree?
Except that it's not a Kenya tree. It's something, it looks like a Kenya tree and very much the same, but it's got a different name, and I can't remember.
Maybe Xenia or something. And okay, well, and what's in the sump? Is it just a regular sump with the scrubber?
No, all my sumps have always been just a tank with no dividers, and this one has.
Sorry, making your jumps.
Same power heads that are in the upper tank. There's one here that pumps the water up into the tank. Then it comes over the overflow and comes back down into here through the sock. There's another power head here. Um, how to get hard to look at the tank and at the screen to see what's happening. But there's another little power head here with an air line going into it, and that's servicing the algae scrubber.
Gotcha.
So it's like you can't get it any simpler.
Right. But it works.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's what matters.
I do everything on the cheap.
And what's the little bottle beside the tank? What's that?
Oh, what bottle's that?
Other side from you.
See, I can't see.
I know you can't see what I'm seeing. It might just be a water bottle, but is there something beside the other side of the tank?
Oh, this here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Chloromex.
Ah, gotcha.
That's been sitting there for a couple of years.
Gotcha.
Well, see, when I got the seahorses from Australia, I didn't have the tank set up, and it wasn't cycled. So what I do when I set up a tank like that in an immediate situation, I keep dosing Chloromex to it, and keep checking the ammonia in that, and any slight trace of ammonia. If there's even 0.025 showing, then I add more Chloromex. And
Gotcha.
I keep on going like that until eventually it cycles and I don't have to add any more.
And do you ever use like now Chloromax? I think that's equivalent to like Prime. I use Prime, but
I chose Chloromex mainly because offshore shippers chose to use it because it was the best that they basically tried, especially the Asian exporters were shipping the stuff out with the with the Chloromax in it, so that when you open the bag, that's the worst time. You open up the bag and the air gets in, and the pH starts changing, and that's when the ammonia that's in the bag will start have an effect on and start burning the gills. With the Chloromax in it, it's got the ammonia bound up, so you don't have any problem with it.
Makes sense.
They've been in the bag for 2.5 days. The ammonia that's in there is all tied up, so it's not hurting them at all.
Right. No, I hear you. Do you ever use bacteria, or is that not?
I added it, but I never saw any difference.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I was going to talk about. I don't know if you guys can see, but I was cleaning today. Lord help us all. And I started going through all of the things that I have or currently, like some I currently use, some are I don't even know why I still have them here, but I have like that table full of crap is just gobs of things that I bought because I thought I had to have it for my aquarium. So want to hear what you guys use, want to see your tanks, feel free to jump in on the link. Dudes, I see you say you had fish and coral are in your tank. That's awesome. But get in here and show us, or shut it.
I'm back. Somehow the said connection got lost.
Yeah, you froze for a minute too. I'm not sure. Whatever. I'm glad you're back. But
I just thought I can walk this downstairs, show you the other tank too.
Yes, please do. Please do. I would love to see it. Anybody who wants to jump in and show your tanks? Like I said, I do want to chat about what all this is and what I actually use and what I figured out I don't need, but there are some real keepers and winners in here that we'll talk about in just a minute. But anyways, we're gonna look at Ray's tank real quick. Ooh, that made me all fuzzy. Sorry, guys.
Okay, because this is abdominalis, I have plastic curtains in here to wall off the area which keeps the whole area down in temperature. And
hey, Ray.
Yeah.
It's when you move around a lot, it kind of freezes a bit, and this is amazing, and I want to see this. But You said that you cover it with plastic because why?
Yeah, I
Because it
have,
keeps in the cool air?
yeah, I have the plastic. Can you see the plastic when I
Yes.
move?
Yes.
Okay. And here, there's an air conditioner.
Ah, gotcha.
Cost me $50 off to Gigi. That was couple years ago, so I've got my money's worth. There's a bucket set up for when the fry were to come, except that when they did come, they were all dead, and I never had another batch after that. And the one that had the fry, he died 2 days later. Anyway, there's
Oh, look at they're beautiful. Look at that. Oh, I need to shut up. Here, I
the
need to
males
present
are
you.
harder to see. See, males are in the back there.
I don't know why it keeps freezing. Okay, try Ray, if you can still hear me, try to like just set the computer still so we can. Is there anywhere to set it down so you can talk and show us stuff or no?
Well, I still have to hold it, but
I'm sorry. Okay.
on the edge of it there.
Well, it freezes for a minute, but then it comes back. Okay, you're back. You're back. Look at them. They are so beautiful. And in this tank, what's in this tank? And how did the tub connect?
5 abdominalis. It's a 90-gallon tank. I
Now,
bought six, but 6 weeks after I got the shipment, um, the one male gave birth and died 2 days later. It
oh,
had no inclination or saw no sign of any problem with it. But when the fry were all born dead, they weren't fully developed, and there was a lot of them, but they were even already disintegrating. So I think it was in the pouch. There must have been some infection, but I just have no way to know now.
right. But so you were able to keep the babies? Is that why you how you ended up with more? Is the babies lived?
No, none of the babies lived.
Oh well, I probably misunderstood. I thought you said that you started off with so many
No,
and now
I
you have
had set
more.
up this that red bucket there.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a sump below it, but I
Okay.
had set that up, prepared for when babies did come, except it never got used because we only had that one batch, and they're all born dead.
Oh,
But I've left it there, and it's all set up so that if something does happen, then at least I can give it a shot. I'm not physically into being able to look after fry too much anymore.
right.
If some of those came along, then I'd give it a try anyway, just
I,
for the heck of it.
I love the column fixture in the middle. Did you get that
Well,
at like a fish store?
yeah, um, Big L's had a sale on. They were clearing out stuff because they were moving the store from one place to another, and I can't remember what the original price was, but it got marked down to a flat $20. So I figured, oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
So I bought it.
And I just want to make a note for anybody watching. This, the Seahorse database for the website is almost complete, and it does a great comparison. But this is a great example. Look how big these seahorses are. That is a 90-gallon tank, and those seahorses. Because a lot of times people buy seahorses and they get them in 3 to 4 inches, and they think they don't need that big of a tank. Look at those monsters.
They're
They're
not even full grown yet.
Isn't that incredible? How many inches would you say they are? Just estimate.
At the moment,
Yeah.
well, we'll stretch it out from the end of the tail to the end of the snout, uh, 10 inches.
Oh my gosh. And abdominalis can get like 12, right?
Yeah, they can get up another couple inches yet. I think the largest ever recorded was about 14 inches.
That's amazing. Well, and you don't keep anything real in here because what's the temperature you keep now this tank at for abdominalis?
This is at 68 or lower.
Okay.
In the summertime, it's up to 68, but right now, this time of the year, uh, it'll be lower. As a matter of fact, I can have a look here and see what it is right now.
Yeah. Salty, I see your question. I will answer it. Just one
64
second.
degrees right now.
64. That's, I think,
Yeah.
many people have said they would much rather their tank be too cool than too hot. Absolutely. Um, and
And
aside,
this one,
go ahead.
does that show there, or is it the wrong one?
Yes,
Book?
no, I see it perfectly. Just tell
That's
me what we're
something.
looking at.
It's a 40-gallon homemade tank, and it does have a divider in this one.
Okay,
Uh,
and I saw it. Can you point it down one more time? I'm sorry.
yeah.
Okay, and I see a lot of rock, obviously. And then what's on the other side? If you can't show, just tell.
Oh, the other side
Yeah,
down there, you mean?
yeah.
That's the return pump in there,
Okay,
and there's the skimmer. Uh, this is the return. Whoops.
you're okay.
This is the return line for the skimmer here.
And you have a monster.
There's the skimmer there.
Wow. Now, what kind of skimmer is that?
I'm sorry,
What type of skimmer? Like, what's the brand name?
the skimmer.
Yes. Yes, this.
Uh, it's a counter current, 4-inch diameter, about 6 foot tall. The air stone in it is about 7 inches long. Oh wait, no, the one that's in there now is about 5 inches. Let me show you.
Just look at those beautiful seahorses. That's awesome.
There's an air stone for it.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
It's basswood, and so I cut them in 2-inch squares, and then I bore it out with a 7/8 diameter boring bar, and then the boring bar I've ground the two sides off on it, so it actually is cutting a little bit under the 7/8 of an inch, and then I have another some pipe fitting stuff. I have a T um, with a length of pipe screwed into the one part of the T, and use the T as a handle. And I cut slots in the threaded part, and then bent them in slightly to make a tap.
Mm-hmm.
And then I threaded into the wood here to give it threads. And then when I use this, I screw the airline fitting in there and make it good and tight, and then stick it in the skimmer.
That's
I usually go
awesome.
through, I alternate them, so at the moment the air bubbles are getting down a little bit here now, so I'm due to take it out, and I'll put it in the bleach and clean off the bacteria off it, and brush it to get any accumulation of stuff that's on it, and I put a new one in, and then let the other one dry out. Once it's all dried out and the bleach all gone, then it's ready to swap out again on the next one.
That's awesome. I mean, sometimes the old school type stuff, the skimmers and stuff, if they work, they work. You know?
I'm sorry?
I just said sometimes the older versions of things, if they work, they work. I mean, that is a monster skimmer, and it's very cool looking. So I'm going to have to look it up because I want one now. But anything else you wanted to... Hey, Dave. I wanted to say really quickly, Salty Reef, yes, I've used an eShops, not the Hob skimmer, but I've used the In-Sump skimmer. In fact, that's what I have on my Reef is an eShops. Hi, Dave, again. And I really do like the In-Sump, but I've not tried the...
Here's the boring bar.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's what the boring bar, and Here's the homemade cap
Gotcha.
that makes the thread in the hole.
Okay. And how do you control the bubbles on
How do I?
that? Can you adjust your skimmer? Is that adjustable?
Oh yeah,
How do you
yeah.
do that?
I've got a pressure regulator on it that I adjust it as it needs, especially after it's been in there for a month. It starts getting clogged up, so I have to put higher pressure on it to keep it working until I get it changed.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I mean, very, very, very cool. And
Anyway, I'm going to go back upstairs where I can sit down.
sure, no problem. You know what? If you want to leave that one on, you can leave that one up when you can watch the seahorses.
Pardon me?
If you want, you can leave that laptop sitting there and go back to your other computer and get on your other computer and let us watch the seahorses if you
Also,
want.
it'll be okay as long as it's that far apart then, will it?
I think so. If it's not, we'll find out.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Okay. And hey, Dave, what's up? We were trying to chit chat tonight about kind of what's in your tank. Ray is literally showing us his seahorse tanks and showed us a really cool idea of using plastic to keep an abdominalis tank, keep the temperature down. That's a really cool idea. I love it. And we're looking at his monstrously big and gorgeous seahorses right now. And he just told us about skimmer. And I have a bunch of stuff over here that I was going to kind of go through it if no one else was talking and talk about the things that I actually use in my seahorse and reef tanks and the stuff that, you know, I don't, that I wasted money on. So, and I'm curious what you guys use. So feel free to join and chat. And Ray's back as Ray. Hi, Ray. You might have to unmute yourself there. I don't know. Or I might. Let me check. I've got two
You getting any
Rays.
feedback now?
Yep, I hear you now. You're good and clear, and we can still see the seahorses. So very cool. Very cool plan. I'm going to have to do that with some of...
When I was down there.
What was it?
When I was down there, the alarm went off, I guess, to feed the seahorses, and I didn't hear it. So I got to go feed this tank, and then I'll go downstairs and feed that tank.
Well, we'll get to watch you. Feel free.
Yep.
And Dave, yeah, the giant air diffuser, I know that's why I was asking him so much questions, is I've personally, to be honest, never used one of the monster sit beside the tank, you know, need an air diffuser kind of, you know, deals. So it's fascinating to me. And if you've used one, I'd love to hear your opinions about it. Feel free to jump in. I put that link up again. Or if you need an email, Lucy is here just and present, just not able to talk tonight. And so, yeah. So if anybody wants to join, show me your tank. Show me what you use on your tank. I thought I'd talk a little bit because I've had everything from freshwater planted tanks that have, you know, very specific needs as far as products putting in and equipment. I've had regular regular fish only tanks where the concern, you know, light's not a concern, the chemicals aren't really a concern, just keeping the water correct and having the right equipment matters. I've had reef tanks where it definitely matters if you're using what you're using as far as equipment and products to keep the coral and things like that happy. And then of course I've got the seahorse tanks and the macroalgae tanks. And funny enough, the macroalgae tanks are very, very similar to the freshwater planted tanks. So for instance, you've got a lot of products that are specific to one or the other because they contain the exact nutrients that specific things need, of course, but they're just very similar. Like in the macro tanks and in the freshwater I will have a whole bunch of information for you guys based on specific macros and greens and reds and what they need and what products work best and what lighting works best and all that good jazz on the website. That's almost done and so close. That's what I've been doing lately. But yeah, I was cleaning it out. Thought I'd go through some of this stuff. See if you guys use it. What your opinion of this, some of this stuff is. Whether you use it. Good and bad experiences. Etc. So, but we're watching Ray feed fish too. This is really kind of a cool part. I want to see Ray feed the fish. So, sorry I was pausing. And I do keep trying to check. Something's wrong with the chat, guys. I apologize. So I'm trying really hard to keep on these comments because I can't see them on the screen. But I'm trying. And no problem, Dave. No problem. You can still join just if you want to chit-chat. But if you don't, it's totally cool. Just chit-chatting tonight. And did I miss it? No. Those seahorses would be going nuts. But yeah, this is really fascinating to me because Abdominalis is one of the species that I've really wanted to keep, but I was really always worried due to the fact that they need such cool temperatures. They're extremely hardy seahorses, actually. One of the easiest species to keep. Of course, talking about buying captive bred, but if you know, that's a species you will probably definitely see in my future. If I can come up with some cool DIY deal with, like Ray's, with air conditioning and plastic, man, I'm all about it. Because look how pretty they are. I've always thought Abdominalis were one of the prettiest species. I mean, they're just so beautiful. And look at them go after that food. Just awesome. And it always fascinates me, too, to see how different people set up their different tanks. I've almost got the second video in the Cheryl Taylor series done, in which she shows us how she makes her K1 media reactors. Ray had not mentioned K1. I think he does use it somehow, somewhere. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know like Dan and Cheryl and all them, they use K1. So it's interesting to see what works for different people. So yeah, what's in your tank, y'all? Come tell me, or tell me in the comments if you see this later. But I'm just going to keep talking until I see somebody join or see Ray come back. Okay, so I did ask Ray about bacteria. He said he had never seen a difference. Well, here's the thing. When you're talking about the different bacteria for an aquarium, it really, really depends on the brand and the species of bacteria they're using. So if you're buying bacteria to start up a tank, that's different than the type that you would buy to clean up a tank. For instance, Dr. Tim's literally has multiple different types. You know, you've got Waste Away, which are different strains of bacteria that can be used when you're wanting to reduce the sludge. So they're the heterophic. Am I saying it right? Heterophic, however you say it. Heterophic, I think. Bacteria strains. And then they've got, I don't know if I pulled it out or not, but yeah, I did. We got One and Only, which is the live nitrifying bacteria, which, you know, I'm sorry, for me, it's always worked. It's always helped. So just as Ray was describing starting up his tanks using Chloramax to make sure that they don't feel it, I start up my tanks sometimes using Prime because there are some interactions, but I'm all about bacteria. As far as I'm concerned, if you're using the good actual strains, it can't really hurt anything, and it can always help. So, and you've got other brands like Turbo Start, Fritzzyme Turbo Start from Fritz, and this stuff works very, very well too. I cycled my 90-gallon Seahorse tank with, it's a little overstocked, but my grow out tank with this tank like overnight almost. I don't want to say overnight because I never do it overnight. I give it a week. I of course test. I use different methods to make sure it's okay, but the tank was, you know, it really does work, guys. But then you get into some that I don't even know if I'll be able to find any right off the bat, but some are they're just different strains of bacteria. So you got to make sure that you're using a product that's actually the right strain for what you actually need to do. So it's really important to do your research, and you will be able to find all of this information. I am, double, triple checking and talking to scientists and talking to these companies and talking to everyone so that I can provide this information on the website for you guys. So you can compare and see what's used for what and what's not really going to work and things like that. Because there are little ways that things can be messed up if they're not done properly, like prime and one and only, binding the ammonia and then the bacteria being able to get it. They're just interactions. But we'll cover all that more. And Dave's Nanotank said, I feel you failed to refrigerate once, have more bang for the buck. I couldn't really read that. Hi, Jay Carey. And that's interesting. I think I could say that the strains of bacteria that need to be refrigerated are more likely to be the ones that would work, because all of the strains I've mentioned so far definitely need to be refrigerated. And again, it depends on what you're doing, because like Fritz has different products. They have the rapid start, then they also have the sludge eating bacteria, then they also have the maintenance bacteria. So you just got to pay attention to what you're actually buying and make sure you know what you're doing. And Dave said Dr. Tim's One and Only and Fritz Turbo. Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I do refrigerate both. Absolutely. They when I met one of the reps for Fritz, oh gosh, what's his name? Oh, it's going to kill me now. If Jessica Stan was here, she would remind me. But there was oh my gosh, he's one of the Reef Shine guys. And he is now, you're okay, Dave, but he's one of the Reef Shine guys, and he now works for Fritz. And he was explaining to me, he was worried about my drive home and helping me out with bacteria because of the ways I had to drive, because it does need to stay refrigerated for sure. And Ray, feel free to pipe up any time. Hey, I'm curious. I think I asked you this before, but do you use, let me see if I can get this up there right. Oh, I'm going crooked. Sorry, guys. Who uses, I can't even get straight. Lordy me. The Mike F probiotics.
I do.
You do use it?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. How do you use it and when?
It's the last that I can use now. I buy it in large bags, and I bought it direct from the main supplier, because for me to buy from Dan is too expensive.
Sure.
In small packaging. But I don't really measure it out much anymore. I don't go by weight or anything. I just add a tablespoon of it to the 90-gallon tank, and a teaspoon to this tank. And I just do it every couple of days. What was actually supposed to be done with it would have been years ago when I first started doing it. And as a matter of fact, everybody was posting on the saltwater forums that it was all garbage. I took a chance on it, and I can't honestly say that I know that it's working or doing something fantastic. But I got started on it, and that was with my reef tanks. And then when I got the seahorse tanks, I just kept doing it anyway.
Gotcha. And, no, I mean, I personally can say I've seen huge differences using this product, but I use it in a few different ways. One of the things I do is I use it with brine shrimp, with hatcheries. If Dan had time to jump in, Dan, if you're listening, jump in, because I don't want to say it incorrectly, but he's helping me work on kind of a listing to show how it should be used in the hatchery situation. Cheryl also uses it in a hatchery situation, but it definitely has helped me there. I can promise you that. fighting off the bad guys by proactively putting in good guys is such a good idea. So I do definitely use this product. Love this product. This stream was actually sponsored by Seahorse Source. Thank you, Seahorse Source. But I'm not getting any kickbacks or anything. I'm telling you, I really love this product. So, and I just really thought I'd have something to talk about in case nobody showed up. But anyways, so definitely I do use probiotics. I've heard of some other ones. I'm curious to anybody in the audience. Like, I've heard of different, types of probiotic formulas from different companies. Would love to hear if you've used any, if they work, how they work for you. And yeah, I started talking and then got myself distracted. I use this in hatchery situations. I use this in the tank. And then I use this especially in a situation like if I'm having to put seahorses into, like if it's a new tank, or if I'm having to put seahorses into a tank that had a different species of seahorse or anything like that, where I just really want to make sure that things go well, this is the way. And the hard part about this product, as Ray was saying, is that you can't tell that if anything's working until you realize that it is. So if you've had really bad experiences with hatcheries and in fry tanks and stuff, then you can seriously see the difference that using something like this makes. But otherwise, it's not like something you can say, oh wow, they're all better, because it's more proactive. But there will be more information about it on the site. Just wanted to say that's one I do use. And let's see, for the seahorse tanks, the only other things that I really use in seahorse only tanks are like, have you ever used any of the, do you use anything besides rock, Ray? As far as filtration,
No.
do you use K1 or anything? No?
Rock.
And if you have clean rock, and that's the way you like to go, obviously Ray is living proof that that works. There's so many different ways to do anything. But another thing that I really, really like is the Brightwell Aquatics. They have different cubes. There's one that's like for nitrates. There's one for phosphates. And they have just the regular bricks and such that provide really porous area to keep more bacteria. This is all about bacteria, people, I'm telling you. Getting the right biological filtration going is key. But these are really cool because they're like covered a little bit. Reef dudes, if you want to jump in and say this better than me, feel free. But they're like, let's see if I can find the exact definition of what they have on them. And actually with these in a reef tank, it's really important that you use them slowly, because you can strip so much phosphate and such out of the tank that, as any decent reef keeper knows, you need a little bit of phosphate to keep those corals happy, and this can strip it fast. And there's an order that you put it in, but the bottom line is it's covered in a material, or in a substance that will, kind of like GFO kind of thing. I got this. Yeah, it's the stuff that makes the phosphate go away. I got this. But no, it's all I can tell you is that it does work. And I usually use these. I use these little ones, especially on my hob tanks, like my smaller version, my smaller tanks that have just a pair of seahorses or something and no sump. Because these, if used properly and wrapped properly and put in the right order, which I'll cover all more later, they actually, work and help. So you don't have to worry as much about doing maintenance, because they're giving you that extra kick. And in case you can't see, let's see if you guys can see them. They're like, this type is the phosphate type, and it's brown. Dave said he has a little bit of everything: pond matrix, ceramic rings, GFO. And yeah, reef dudes, this one's got the coating of GFO, right? Is that what it is? But they're brown. And then the other type I have somewhere around here, I think. Oh, I don't. Well, the other type is white, is the bottom line. I probably do have it somewhere here, but I can't find it in this mess. I have so much crap. But, anyways, bottom line is, so the bricks and the little cubes for hob type situations really seem to help if you have a high bioload tank. And Dave even uses the Marine Pure plates. Yeah, I think every single one of my tanks has either the Marine Pure or the Brightwell bricks or blocks in them. I just love them. I love the spears. I love all of them because, Ray, I think it's so cool that you do such a good job with rock, but I've just had so many different issues. Because, actually, honestly, it's not that I have issues with rock, because I've had my rock for so long that, you know, I know it's good. And I've used methods to make sure, you know, I can't even think of the word, where you stick it in the bucket forever to make sure nothing's on it. I can't think of the word. Anybody want to help me? But bottom line is, my rock
around for 5 years.
Right.
And so I keep using something else when I've got lots of rock.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah, this is definitely not ever telling anybody to do it differently. If what you're doing is working, keep working it, dude. Don't change. But for anybody
25 years
new,
ago, you didn't have all these alternative things.
right?
Everybody used rock.
Well, and hey, you're proof that it can work. You know, we did see the amount of rock you keep in your sump, because so you understand the importance of making sure you have enough biological filtration and media to hold it. I'm just talking about different methods for people who maybe don't have a sump or maybe don't have as much area in their sump. Because I love your setup with a lot of rock and your algae scrubber. I think that's terrific, and I really thank you for sharing it. But I was just going through this stuff, and frankly, I'm going to throw away half this stuff because I don't use it. But I'm showing you the stuff I do use, and I was curious what you guys use. And you guys are just tip-talking. All right. Siporomax, Siporax. What is that, Lucy? I don't know. Marine Pure, IM sintered glass, Azu sintered glass, and sump as bacteria housing. I'd love to see it, Lucy, if you can show me or throw up a picture, because I don't know what you're talking about with the glass. But anyhow, I'm just thinking. Anything else for the seahorse tanks? Now, macro tanks. I have jumped around all which way or the other, and I do have some specific thoughts onto what works best. But I'm curious for you, Reef Guy, High Tanks and Updates. Anybody in the audience who has an aquarium, coral aquarium, reef tank, or anyone with a seahorse tank, but uses macros either in the sump or in the display, I'm curious what you use to keep the macros happy. Or if everything you do for the coral just takes care of the macros. Because in seahorse tanks, a lot of times, that seahorse poo is like the best fertilizer for macros ever. But when you're trying to do a display tank of macros, or you're trying to, you know, push a certain type to grow faster, if you pay attention to their needs and are able to give them what they need, say iron, say potassium, say whatever, then they will grow better. That is for sure the fact. And that's okay, Lucy, no big deal. But I'm curious people's opinion on Reefs Plus, and there's Reefs Trace also, C-Chem, because I did use these on the beautiful macro tank that everybody says, oh my gosh, that's such a pretty macro tank. On that tank, I did use these particular products. However, I just had, and Reefs Plus is concentrated vitamins and amino acid supplement. The Reef Trace has the trace elements. And I did use those in conjunction with like iron and different things for the macros, but I just always felt like it was giving it a little too much. So I'm curious what you guys think, because yeah, I actually ended up not really cutting the doses because I was getting nuisance algae in addition to my macros growing well. I was getting nuisance algae, so that wasn't cool. And Lucy said CChem Matrix. Right, absolutely. CChem Matrix. Another one, totally, I'm sorry I'm jumping around, guys, but another one as far as the biologicals, I'm curious, does anybody still use Purigen? Because I don't have any on me, but I have some in the tanks. Have you ever heard of Purigen, Ray?
Yes, but I've never used it.
I love that stuff. I know that the UK group, Seahorses and Pipefish Help and Advice or Information or whatever, Martin is a big time Purigen pusher. that's the wrong way to say it, but I definitely have nothing bad to say about Purigen. Purigen's a great product. But the thing is, you have to keep in mind, you don't need all this stuff. As Ray has shown us at the beginning, all you need is to make sure that you have a lot of whatever you choose to use to provide enough biological filtration for your tank. And Ray, do you use any chemical or anything like that? You use no chemical, right?
I use
like
chemicals
carbon or what?
homemade salt water.
You what?
I use chemicals to make up my homemade salt water.
Like what? What do you mean?
I use calcium chloride and sodium chloride and sodium sulfate and magnesium chloride.
So do you actually just make your, you don't use artificial salt, bottom line?
No, I mix it half and half.
Oh.
I use an ocean half and half with my homemade salt.
That's really cool. And is that so that you'll have just the amount of calcium you want? I mean, do you like test it or do you just like it? What?
It's been cheaper. Like I've been doing it for, I don't know how many years now. I started maybe 20 years ago, and I took a formula that was published by Frank Malero in Chemical Oceanography, and I took the primary ingredients in it, and I've ignored all the minor traces that get added to it, mainly because it's too expensive to be able to add in all those trace elements. And the fact that there's enough impurities in the major elements that's going to add some of the minor elements that they're already there and they're not being added individually. But see, I started this so many years ago, and when I first started, Randy Holmes Farley had started his chemical forum on Reef Central, and so I communicated with Randy and went through just to make sure that the proportions that I had that I was using were suitable for the reef tanks. And so ever since then, I originally used to use, I think when I first started, about a quarter of the water would be the homemade stuff for the reef tanks. The fish only tanks, I would use half and half. But eventually I went up to about 40% on the reef tanks. And again, when I started into the seahorses, I started again with at 40%, but I've since pushed it to the 50%.
Gotcha. I mean, whatever works. And I mean, I'm all about saving money too. So I'm gonna have to get that little. I'm gonna have to get that recipe from you when we're done here. But speaking of reef tanks, I'm just curious. Did you, when you wanted, obviously you just talked about how you made sure that your water was providing what you needed, what your coral needed. But how often did you do water changes to restore that?
Well, if you want to know the truth, I never did do water changes to restore anything. I did water changes to get rid of things.
Okay.
When you feed the tank and it decomposes or it's processed through the inhabitants in the tank, and then even the microlife that's reprocessing the waste and that, and makes their own waste. But when it gets all done, the water now contains a lot of elements in it that were not in it before,
Right.
or not at those levels. So I changed the tank to get those levels down again. I've
Right.
never done a water change in order to restore something to it.
Right. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's just like, for instance, in my reef tank, I went 2 years without doing a water change because it was like a project and it was a goal. And Cruise Areas helped me set up my system to where the refugium was working as an export system, and pruning the macroalgae in the refugium was my way of taking out those excess nutrients, and the skimmer was another big part of removing any of the bacteria would eat the stuff, and then the skimmer would take it out. But then I was left with, I would see based on testing that my potassium would be low because without doing water changes at all, it just, I don't know, I get what you're saying, but the bottom line is I had to dose something, and plus I was keeping a mixed reef with many coral that required like a lot of calcium. It of course depends on what you're keeping. Like if you have a clam, well, that changes how much calcium is being taken up, so what you have to replace changes, that kind of thing. But when I had my reef tank going well for 2 years, the things that I would use is I constantly reloaded the bacteria, good strains of bacteria, and I used at that time Reef Grow. I'm curious if anybody else has used Reef Grow. It absolutely worked for me. I didn't have a problem with it. They had a little chart where I could figure out what I needed based on what I had in my tank, and I used that line of products to dose my tank for 2 years and never had a problem. It was really great. So I'm curious if anyone else used that or what anyone else uses. Because what you're saying does make sense, Ray, and a lot of things do depend on, what you feed. Because, for instance...
Another thing that you were talking about 2 years without changing water.
Mm-hmm.
I went longer than that back in my early years, a couple of decades ago. And then I added a fish to the tank, and I ended up losing it.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't find anything wrong. So I added another fish after about a month or so. And I lost that one too.
Huh.
And after I lost a third fish, this was probably in a 6-month period, I can't figure out what's going on because nothing's dying in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
I put a new fish in there, and they can't handle it.
Huh.
I finally woke up to the fact that in not changing the water, water conditions have gradually changed, and the corals and the fish and the shrimp and that were in the tank, and even I had a giant 12-inch clam, and they gradually adapted to the slowly changing water conditions. When I put the new fish in, they couldn't adapt to it. Like it was too much of a change from what they would have been used to up to that point. So I didn't get any more after that, and I just started doing water changes and did it gradual. And then I don't remember how long now, it might have been 5 or 6 months before I finally added another fish, and I had no problem.
That's fascinating, and I get it. That actually makes perfect sense because I get it. The fish, coral adapted to what you had going on, and what do you think was the key thing that was missing though? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think it was a case of I don't think it was a case of so much of something missing. Like I said, that's when I finally realized that all this food was gradually building up levels of elements in there that were no longer anywhere near normal ocean levels. So if I do water changes, now mind you, I may not have done as many water changes as some people do, but then again, other people seem to have done or done without water changes for a lot longer and not had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, there were other people that were having problems also when they didn't do water changes for a long time. The only thing that I ever replenished, I used calcium hydroxide
Mm-hmm.
for alkalinity and calcium, but I also had Randy Holmes Farley's do-it-yourself mixtures for the magnesium and alkalinity and calcium. Um, so under normal circumstances, my calcium and alkalinity was usually okay using the kalkwasser because I replaced all my evaporated water with the kalkwasser. But there were times when the Halimedius went through growth spurts or something, and it couldn't keep the calcium level up when that was taking the calcium out. Then I used Randy's formula and replaced magnesium and calcium.
Did you do that based? Did you add based on testing? How did you determine how much to add?
Yeah, back then I used to test,
Gotcha.
but eventually I got to the point I didn't test anymore. I was going by what I could see.
Sure. That's one of the cool parts about, experience is that you get it. Lucy and I talked about that last week is, we know just by looking most of the time if a seahorse is really sick or if it's just pissed off or, whatever, change in mood.
But someone that's new to the hobby, or like even a couple years in, you tell them things like that, and they have no concept of uh, being able to look and know that something is wrong because
Right.
it takes a lot of years, really. At least it took me a lot of years before I got to that point where when I saw something, I finally could relate it to something that in the past when I was testing, I would find something deficient or something too high, and then know how to take care of it. So then it got to the point when I just see those symptoms in the tank, then I just automatically did it.
Right. No, I
The
gotcha.
only thing in the last 10 or 15 years that I've ever tested for, um, um temperature, pH, and um phosphates. I did some phosphate testing recently just to see how good these kits were
Mm-hmm.
and just what my levels were. And my levels are higher probably than normal because there's a little bit higher level in my do-it-yourself water than what there is in the instant ocean. I
Gotcha.
think in the instant ocean, I was running about 14 parts per billion, and I'm up about 21 parts per billion in the do-it-yourself water.
Hmm.
And I didn't know if removing that would make any differences in here, so I experimented by using the phosphate removers, and I tried two different ones. Um, I can't think of the names right now. Um, one of them was the common one that everybody used to use years ago.
GFO.
Yeah, it's GFO, but I'm talking about the brand names because there is a difference.
Phospan. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, or yeah, Phospan. I think that was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then I tried another one, and it didn't work as well as the Phospan. Um, Now, mind you, the second one, it was a little bit coarser, so I didn't have as much problem with it getting out and having to be captured with a micron mesh. Um, the first one with yeah, what did you call it again?
Phospan.
The Phospan, yeah. with that one, I had to use a micron mesh to be sure in about the first week of this operation that I wasn't loading up the tank with all the stuff. So it would come out of the reactor, go through the mesh, and then into the sump before it went back into the tank. But I didn't really need to do that with the second one because it was coarser and it didn't go flying out of the reactor quite so easy.
Gotcha. Well, I totally forgot where I was because Felicia messaged. Oh, Felicia, stop. And get in here. Don't worry about that quiz stuff. I also sent you a link to join right now. You need to get in here and talk to us. Tell me what you put in your tanks. Show me your tanks if you want. I'm talking to Felicia on Messenger too, Ray. Sorry. Anyways, and I've just called you out big time, Felicia. So get in here. Click that link. Anyways. Oh, that's right. You were saying, Ray, also that it definitely matters and depends upon what you're feeding. And like these questions and comments really do apply to reef tanks, seahorse tanks, macro tanks, all of them, because things just do different things. And the needs, though, of creating that balance and that stability and keeping things from jumping around too much is accurate, and you need that in every single system. So who uses reef bugs? Anybody use reef bugs? And I saw a new product. Tulio was promoting a new product too. I wish I had it to show you guys, but maybe you'll see it in an article. We'll see. But Salty Reef said, Salty, what size is your macro tank? I can't remember. Salty, the macro tank that was in the magazine and that I was speaking about earlier that I used the Seachem products on, that was only a 29-gallon display tank. And it had 2 seahorses in it. Actually, it had 4 seahorses in it at one point because I'm a bad girl. But I currently have a grow out macro tank that is 20 gallons. I have a specific species, kind of playing with specific species of macros, seeing what lighting works, 5 gallon. I've got a display seahorse macro tank that's 65 gallon. And then I've got like the sump type algae in the refugium of my reef. And then, let's see, I have one more 30 gallon, like basically grow out. Some of these what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to not only find different methods of sterilizing different types of algae so that they are clean, but then growing it out to help others and sell it to others and be able to say this is clean. It's not been with fish. It's not got anything on it. It's been by itself for a really long time. So I have a lot of macro tanks where I do have to use products where I'm actually dosing in elements because there's no fish poop, or there's no food, or there's no anything. So, I use products for different reasons, but I have multiple macro tanks. Hi, Tina's Reef. Feel free to join. Show me how your tank's doing. Show me what you use. But anyways, I was just curious about the reef bugs, if anybody had used it, and what other kinds of coral foods you use that happen to make a difference to the rest of the tank. Because, like these, what? These, if you read the box on the reef bugs, it actually says with pod power, and these are supposedly like come to life kind of things once they get into the water and they're in like one of those frozen isolated states or whatnot, and they actually become alive or somewhat when they get into the water. And I've used them. They say they have beneficial microbes in reef bugs completely clean up excess nutrients in the aquarium itself. So it's like food, and then it's adding the little critters that, take up some of the excess nutrients. So really interesting. I honestly can't give a true review because I didn't use it for long enough. I got distracted and didn't do the tests and such that I wanted to do. So maybe that's something that we'll do here in the future. But I'm curious if you guys use it. Salty Reef said Aqua Vitro fuel, which would be Aratia, is good. Now, what do you use it for, Salty? I'm curious. And you said for some reason you thought that I had the macros in a 55-gallon tank. No, the Reef's a 55 with a 40-gallon sump. But the Seahorse tanks are 90, 65, and a bunch of little ones, basically, is what I got going on. And then the grow-out tanks and the tubs for babies are completely separate and different. But anyways, fuel for reefs ignites coral growth. Carbohydrate, vitamin, fatty acid, and amino acid supplement for corals. And see, that's, Ray, that's one of the things that I meant, is when I say adding things back, the thing is, in an aquarium, we can test for phosphate. We know that when we're testing for phosphate, we're not getting an accurate reading, really, unless you're buying the really expensive test kits, because inorganic and organic phosphate show up differently, and we're not going to go down that big, long topic. I have a video on it. But the bottom line is, there are things we can't test for. So I just always thought in a case where where you're not doing water changes, or in a case where you have specific coral or seahorses or whatever, I just wonder, which products people use to add back those trace elements and micro elements that we can't test for, or whether you feel like you don't need to. So just curious. But
I never felt the need to. And on top of that, years ago on Reef Central and the Chemistry Forum, there was investigations done on many of the additives at the time meant to add in for the corals, food and vitamins and that kind of thing. And all of them were basically water. The amount of product that was in it that was supposed to do some good was so low that it was just basically a waste of money.
Right.
And that included what's his name, Julian Sprung.
Yeah, Julian Sprung.
His products.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. All the major companies that were involved at that time, there was a lot of it around, but it was basically a waste of money from what happened. They took samples that were just bought at stores. They didn't depend on companies sending them something. They bought bought from stores so they could be sure that was getting what was available to the public, and they bought the different ones and multiple units of the same product, and they sent it off to be tested in the chemical labs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the end of it. And I had never added anything like that at that point anyway, but once the results of that study came out, there was no way you were going to convince me after that I was going to spend all these bucks on that product. Now, there hasn't been a study that I have seen for a lot of years now, and I still kind of suspect that while some of them may do something, I'd be willing to bet that none of them are going to do as much as what is claimed.
Sure.
The same as the stuff you buy for yourself in these alternative medicine stores, health stores, and that. I get information from the NIH, even though I'm Canadian. When I first signed up for it, I think back in '98, I got signed up as a physician. So I get a lot of stuff that if I was to sign up today, I couldn't get on without proving I was a physician.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a specific section now strictly for alternative stuff, and and doing studies on things like glucosamine and all these other additives people take. And they also sample products bought from stores throughout the U.S. and check it, and they find that some of the product doesn't even contain what it's supposed to contain,
Right.
and most of the products contain stuff that isn't listed.
I mean, I do know you're right, and I wish Dan was in here right now. I really do because he's huge about. And actually, Let me start over. Your comparison of the human body and an aquarium is awesome. I actually use it in a couple articles because I agree 100%. And it's fascinating when you talk about probiotics and things like that affect both an aquarium and a person, or magnesium being low, and so on and so forth. And you're right that in a lot of cases the products can't be trusted, but that's why it's really important to find the companies that can be trusted, and that kind of thing, and listen to the right people. But the thing is, also that we learn as we go. You know what I mean? Like what ended with your story about Julian Sprung's products? You said it ended up happening that they found out that whatever was.
It wasn't his.
It wasn't his. I was going to say, I can't see his products being false, but what?
It was just, I mentioned Julian because his name was the only one that I could think of at the time.
Okay.
I couldn't even remember his company's name. I think Two Little Fishies or something like that. But anyway, I couldn't think of that at the moment, so I used his name. But his wasn't the worst, but it was close to the worst. But there wasn't any of them that were really what they could call were effective as a tool for the aquarium.
Meaning what exactly? Like they weren't doing what they said they'd do, or
there wasn't enough of anything in there to have any real effect on it.
I got you.
It's like when we're dealing again now with people, there's all sorts of stuff out there being sold now with probiotics in it.
Yes, and some of it's crap.
On this stuff, and it's a load of crap because biotics are great, the probiotics, but you have to know which ones are going to do something for you. You have to know, first of all, the type that you have. For instance, in your gut, in your digestive tract, everybody doesn't have the same probiotics. Mm-hmm. There are so many different ones that you can be sitting there dosing something that will not live in your system for any length of time because it's not what your body has created conditions for. So until you get tested to find out exactly what probiotics your system has and might need, then it's all a waste of money. You might luck in and choose one that happens to be doing the job for you, but that's a lot of chance to take when there's so darn many different probiotics.
Right. No, I hear you. I mean, I do hear you, and that's what makes it so hard, because there are some that are crap. And when I started this stream, I think it was when you were feeding the fish, I was actually talking about the difference between, say, Dr. Tim's One and Only and Dr. Tim's Clear Up and Dr. Tim's Waste Away. Okay, if you don't know which strains of bacteria are doing what, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna try to cycle a tank with Clear Up, and it's not gonna work.
I think for most of them, because there's so little of anything really effective in the products, that you're not going to screw up because there's not enough there to do any damage.
Well, I just meant like if you're trying to start a tank, like the One and Only is a tank starter. So literally, you and I'm not trying to disagree at all with you. And I just wanted to mention we're seeing Tina's beautiful tank in the background. Thank you, Tina, for displaying your beautiful.
Sorry, it's so blue.
No, it looks nice. Great. I do want to hear how it's doing, but I wanted to finish real quick. I just wanted to say that Dr. Tim's One and Only, Fritz, TurboStart, these things I can tell you from my own experiences that they work. Now, there's a lot of situations where, I mean, Dr. Tim's has an entire page, which I'll link if I can remember when I'm done, with the problems that most people have making them, the problems most people have that make it not work. Like they don't refrigerate it, or they buy expired, or they try to add it at the same time as an ammonia remover, not a detoxifier, or not one that converts it to ammonia, but one that actually removes it. And then there's nothing for the bacteria to eat, and so it doesn't work. But if you use it properly, according to the guidelines, you can cycle a tank like that for real. I've done it myself many times. I'm not promoting, for the record, that anyone throw this in and think they can put seahorses in the next day. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is this can definitely assist in a faster cycle if used properly. So, and what I meant by it can screw you up if you don't know the strains is because there are a lot of companies that will sell stuff as overnight. You can cycle your tank overnight with this bacteria. Just throw it in and you'll have a tank in the morning. Throw your seahorses in, you're good. And it's not true because half of those bacteria are the heterophic sludge busters. So it's just, watch for the article. But I don't disagree with you. And I love your comparison to the human body.
It's different. That type of product is different from probiotics. So.
Yes, and I'm sorry, and you were talking about
from the stuff that people are adding to their tanks for food and vitamins for corals.
Right. No, you're right.
It's a different scenario, and I have no doubt that these other things, because of the consequences that if it didn't work, the consequences that people would suffer would be all over the internet. All the problems, and they couldn't afford to put the stuff out like that. But when you put out something where you're not going to see any consequences, then there is nothing, nobody's going to talk about it or be upset about it or get anything, so people just keep on buying the products, whether they're doing any good or not.
Well, I'm about to go and look up that what you're talking about, the Randy Holmes testing with Julian. I'm about to look that up when we're done because I either wasn't around yet or missed it because I'd love to read that.
20 years ago now.
But I mean, you're right. Like I'm sitting as I went through all of my products, I found like Vitachem. I found, if you talk to Dan, he uses, please correct me if I'm saying it wrong, but anallaxin. Oh, I can't say the word right, but it's like the garlic derivative or something like that. He uses that for certain things. He's actually very into homeopathic and figuring out what the body needs or the aquarium needs and doing it yourself. But he knows what he's doing. So, of course, it depends on your background. You were talking about your background earlier. And so, I don't know. I was just curious what you guys all do and what you guys all think. Because there are so many ways to doing things. And it does suck when there are products that just, make a bunch of money and don't really. That was my thoughts on Vibrant. Vibrant is right here. I literally cursed these poor guys out because I said, you're selling hydrogen peroxide in a bottle, and I know it. And they're not. They're really not. The product does work. The videos are coming. It didn't work the way that as much as I wanted it to, but it does work. So, I don't know. Just curious about all your opinions. So that's why I want you to say how you feel about it, Ray, and I want you to definitely compare. And I did get off track talking about the bacteria versus probiotics, but you yourself have said that this one works. Why do you think that is? Because it's the right strains? Did I lose you?
Sorry.
Oh.
I lost there.
I'm sorry. I just said you yourself use the Mike F probiotics.
Yeah.
Is that just because you personally know that they are the right strains?
No. It was because that was available to me many years ago when I bought it. I forget. I think Dan was using a different one, but he might be using the McF now because the other one became unavailable in quantities that he could use for repackaging for his customers.
Right. No, this is the same one. He couldn't sell it for a while, and then he worked something out, and now
Yeah.
can sell it again. But yeah, I mean, when it comes down to that kind of thing, I kind of personally trust people like Dan, and then when it works, and I can actually see a difference, as I said, using it like in a hatchery situation, I believe it. But it does suck that there's so many products out there that don't work. And that's kind of what I wanted to discuss too, you guys, are there products that you tried that you found out that are just crap? I want to know. Like for cycling purposes, again, I just want to keep repeating this. I am not at all saying you can cycle a tank overnight. That is not my words. I'm saying that in wanting to cycle a tank more quickly, you can use products like Dr. Tim's One and Only and Fritz Turbo Start. They do work. I still don't recommend overnight cycle, and I still definitely don't recommend it for seahorses. Seahorses need
You should
an
always
established
challenge the
tank.
tank once you think it's ready anyway.
What was it?
You should always challenge the tank. Once you figure that bacteria has done its job and you figure it's ready, then add a couple parts per million of ammonia and see if it clears overnight.
Yep.
If it clears overnight, you're okay.
Yep.
Unless you're really overstocking the tank, in which case, what I used to do if I was going to start a tank and put a lot in all at once, then I'd go up to 4 or even 6 parts per million and have it clear overnight.
Gotcha. No, I mean you're absolutely right. I say that in one of the very first videos I ever made. I say that you have. Of course, I use the word eat, and everybody made fun of me. But I agree with you. You have to test it. You have to make sure that you can convert that much ammonia overnight before you even go messing around. Hey, Tina.
Yes, dear.
What products do you use in your reef tank? Do you use any?
Yes, as far as what, hon?
Any. All. I want to know everything.
Okay. I usually mostly use Seachem products.
I like Seachem.
I use the Refusion for my alkalinity. I have not had to use the calcium yet. I use Stability for my beneficial bacteria. I'm getting ready to make my own little pouch of ChemiPure Blue because my LFS was out of it. I figured out what was in the ChemiPure Blue and purchased what I got. So I got some Fluval seed trace elements that I rarely use, and I have the fuel, and I use that sparingly because when I use it, it jacks my nitrates up.
Right, or you get algae if you use it too long. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I agree. And do you aside from water changes? I'm sorry, I was listening, but I kind of got lost. You said do you have like a dosing system, or do you just know your own routine?
Just water. Yep, just water changes right now.
Okay, good. And of course, people, water changes are the end all. That's the good. Bye, Salty Reef. Thanks for coming in. Anybody who wants to join, feel free. Otherwise, thanks for coming. We're just chit chatting tonight. But yeah. And what does your tank have a sump, Tina?
Yes, it does. My 75.
What
I have
of course it is.
the best of both worlds.
Okay.
My 75 gallon has a sump and a skimmer. In my 65 gallon, I use all hang-on back equipment for my filtration and my skimming.
Okay. And what kind of equipment do you use in the hang-on back? Because I know that a lot of... Go ahead.
Is an Aqua Clear 110 for my filtration, and then I have the... oh my gosh, now you're going to put me on the spot.
Sorry.
No, the Aquamax is for my skimmer.
Okay.
I believe it's an Aquamax.
Okay. But I'm sorry, I should have asked the question more clearly. I meant like what type of biological or chemical filtration media type stuff are you using in the hob?
Okay, in my Aqua Clear, I have, for my hang-on back, I have the sponge. And then above that, I have a carbon. And then above that, I've got my biological filter media. And
Okay.
above that is pinky pads.
Pinky pads. What are pinky pads?
Pinky, they're just like the white, they're just like white. They work the same way. It's just a filter pad that you cut up. But it's called a pinky filter.
Very cool. Very cool. And so you just haven't at this point found a need for. I mean, you did mention some of the products that you use and that you like CChem, but you haven't found a need for specific stuff. You don't have. I'm trying to see. It is blue and the screen's a little small for me on my end. But do you have SPS in the tank?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and they haven't. I know you.
They haven't died. No.
No, that's not.
They haven't died. They've been growing like crazy.
I'm so proud of you, and I. That's not what I was gonna say. I promise. I was gonna say.
The one.
Go ahead.
The one that you're looking at is a mixed reef. I have softies, I have LPS, and I have SPS in that tank. The
Wow.
only thing that I've had to dose in this tank so far is alkalinity, because my calcium and my magnesium are still pretty high because of the salt that I use, but the alkalinity is what seems to get eaten up. So that's all I've had to dose on this tank so far. I'm trying to keep it as unmechanical as I possibly can. I want it to be, I guess, ease of use or whatever. You know, I may end up having to one day, but I would rather just keep my corals small and not let them take over the tank, and then just dose what I need to by hand, because I'd rather not have any more equipment and run up the electric bill more.
Right.
At least that's my theory behind it. I'm not sure how well that's going to work, but we'll see.
I was going to say, one of the things that you just brought up and Ray's talked about already is what's interesting is there's so many ways to do things, but it depends, you know, if you decide to do things one way, you should really follow through with that way. Meaning, there are salts that have more of this, less of that, blah, blah, blah. That are specific to certain types of tanks. Fritz has some, Fritz has some new salts out. I saw at Macna, one that's specific to SPS nominated tanks. And I know that they're a terrific company and trust what they say. And so, you know, you can get away with not dosing things as much with that. Miracle Mud, if you use Miracle Mud in the sump, all of a sudden you don't need to worry about the trace elements as much because, you know, you've got something else taking care of it. But, you know, for people that are just starting like a seahorse tank or, are first brand new to a reef tank, and, you know, please don't be scared by this video and think you have to go out and buy a bunch of products. Ray, as showed you throughout this video, is perfect proof that you do not. You can literally just use rock and a skimmer and get it and do well. And I've been tricked a lot. Oh, you just moved on? He just moved all my products. I was going to show you some of the ones I don't use anymore. Thanks, Sean. Everybody say thanks, Sean. But anyways, there are plenty of things that I've wasted money on that don't work, and you know, I wouldn't tell somebody to put them in their tank if you paid me. So it's just it's a difficult process, but that's why I was curious to hear what you guys all use. And I'm so glad to hear that things are going well for you, Tina. What?
Try to stay minimalistic. I don't want to be as far as like messing with the tank, I just want to clean it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to be messing with a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not, this tank is a whole year old now, as of March 3rd. Mm-hmm. And it's been not a big, overwhelming, oh my God, every month I've got to do this, and this. It's taking apart the skimmer and wiping it out, wiping down the sump, soaking the pumps, that type of stuff. I don't want to have to worry about 10 other pieces of equipment or an apex.
Right. No, I hear you. I totally hear you. To each their own. My phone keeps dinging. Whoever's talking to me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If people are talking through the Facebook chat watching this stream, I really do apologize. Something went wrong with the restream chat right before we started, so it's not on the screen. So I'm unfortunately not seeing your comments. Hopefully Lucy's handling that on that end. She usually is. But I apologize if I'm missing questions. I really am. I'll answer them later. But I like your approach, Tina. And I mean, I like Ray's approach using, old school methods of rock that he's. Hey, Ray, I meant to
Yeah.
ask. I'm so sorry. I meant to ask you. I know that you use rock that is 5 years old, and you just
5,
you said
25.
5, right?
25.
25. Well, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, so 25 years old. But when you first got it, did you do anything to make sure that it was? Did you do anything to it, or did you just use it?
No, because I got it for my reef tanks. That's what it was for. When I started into seahorse tanks, initially I took some rock out of each system. I used to have an awful lot of tanks, and so when I started into seahorses, I took some rock out of each tank, and that's what I set up for my first seahorse tank. Eventually, I came to the conclusion that it was better to start it off sterile. So I bleached the rock and started over again.
Mm-hmm.
Bleached it and Chloramaxed it and let it dry out completely, and then set up a tank again by adding ammonia to it
Sure.
and let it go through the cycle then. And I never put any corals in it. Everything was sterile that it went in, all the artificial stuff. I sterilized the power heads, everything that I was using at that time. It was because when I first started, I was experiencing fatalities, and it was ticking me off, and I was looking for an answer. And it took me a lot of years before I found out the biggest answer is keep that water clean.
Right. Keep the water clean, and I will add to that and say start off right, like you did. What was it?
Plus feeding them a lot more times.
Right. Ooh, that was the secondary topic that I was going to choose tonight, but I had all my crap out, so I wanted to talk about that. But Ray, some week I really want to talk about a little bit more about feeding, and that will be a seahorse specific topic. Just because, I talked to Tammy earlier, and we were talking about mysis and how to get it in fresh and how variety matters and that kind of thing. So couldn't agree more. But do you just feed frozen foods?
No, when you saw me feeding tonight on that ab tank,
Yes.
the first I put in was the enriched brine shrimp, the live stuff.
Okay.
And then the second dosing that I put in was the Picari mysis.
Right. So see,
go ahead. I don't like PE mysis because it fouls up the water too much.
Really?
Yeah. Because they coat it with enrichment, and the enrichment washes off when you put it in the water.
Well, I'm in that, and you don't even use that in the tanks that have the coral, because I would think that the coral would like that part, that stuff.
What, the live shrimp and that?
No, the extra stuff.
The extra goodies that you don't like.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't want it in there because I want the thing easy to look after, and the more nutrient that I'm putting into the tank, the more work I got to do to keep the tank clean.
I mean, hey, you just nailed it.
I was born lazy, and why should I make more work for myself?
Right.
I probably work harder at getting out of work than I do actually the work itself.
Gotcha. Hey, you're in the right crowd here. With the one question too is about nutrient removal. Obviously, you showed us your algae scrubber and how you made it. How much did it cost to make that? I never did ask you that. You showed us your DIY scrubber. Was it really inexpensive overall to make?
Well, as I mentioned, the only thing I bought was the 2 LEDs. The rest of the stuff I had, like the cord that I've soldered the LEDs to plug into the receptacle, that's off an old heater that fried a long time ago. And anything like that, I cut the cords off and so I can use them for something else someday.
Mm-hmm.
And the two containers, the inner and outer container, they're rigid plastic that Walmart sells the extra lean hamburger in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
You said.
they have the small size and large size, and I always buy the large size anyway. And so these things are probably 8 by 11. Like
Mm-hmm.
a sheet of paper will fit inside them. A standard sheet of paper.
But I mean, overall, it costs $250 or something to buy an algae scrubber, and you probably paid for your stuff what, like 50
Yeah, I don't
bucks?
know. I don't know what the cost is. Like, if I was to do it like the PDF thing that I downloaded,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'd be buying these rare earth magnets to hold the two halves together, and a bunch of other crap, and I'd have had to buy an air pump with more power than the one that I had sitting here. But whenever I do something, my primary object is to use something that I already have.
Smart.
I'm a tightwad, and I figure if I can get by with
No,
something that I already have, why spend the money?
Hey, that's a smart way to be. And the only other question I had for you about that was, have you ever used macroalgae in any other way as a nutrient export type of situation in seahorse
Well,
tanks?
it was in my reef tanks, but the thing is, it wasn't there with the intent to reduce nutrients. It was there because I liked it.
Gotcha. Okay, I was just curious, we've kind of strung out a pretty long stream, so I do see your question, living garage. I'm getting ready to answer it, and but I'm curious since he took all my products. I was gonna show you guys. I was gonna cover in a little bit of detail what I specifically use on macroalgae tanks. And why in each situation. So let me know if that's something you would want to hear about next week in the comments, or we can talk about something else, whatever. But I know I do get a lot of questions about lighting and dosing for macroalgae, and so I want to cover it for you guys if that's what you want to hear. So I can pull all them products back out and talk about that next week. Maybe get a few algae people in here. Maybe Felicia will join and show us her awesome macroalgae stuff. But either way, just let me know if that's something you're interested in, or what kind of topics you want to see covered next week, or if there's any. I do have some speakers lined up, but you guys let me know what you want, and I'll try to make it happen. And Living Garage said, do seahorses absolutely need RODI water? What do you think, Ray? I have my answer.
Well, I've gone both ways, and I don't think it needs RODI. I use it because I have it, but I didn't used to have it, and I can't say that my problems were because I didn't use RODI. They were because I didn't really understand what seahorses needed at the time. It's just that if you use RODI, your water quality is not going to degrade quite so fast.
Right.
But it's only like maybe, I'm guessing, to pick something out of the air, it might increase the longevity of the water by, say, a day out of a week.
I couldn't get that specific with the numbers there, but
That's only a guess.
oh, sorry, Tina, I didn't mean to keep yapping.
Right.
I appreciate you sharing the beautiful tank. I want to hear more about it. But Lucy said that she would say it depends on the type of tap water. I agree with both of you. My initial answer would be, yeah, always go with RODI for a seahorse tank. Just because, especially if you're new to keeping seahorses and it's your first tank, you people don't realize how important it is to limit the nutrients and control the nutrients in a seahorse tank. and how much they eat and how much that affects that. So starting off with water that has nothing in it except for what you put in makes a huge difference because of what Lucy said, because depending on where you live, the water can have different stuff. I pulled my water report back when I was doing freshwater planted tanks and had discus, which was an interesting combination because the plants needed things and the discus needed things that didn't always match. So that was a fun tank. But I found out that my tap water has like nitrates of 20 right out of the tap. And the phosphates are off the roof. Dan actually talked me into a chlorine kit, which was sitting out here, but Sean put away. But that's one of the kits that I have to test water and such because, you know, there could be chloramides, there could be all sorts of stuff in your tap water that yes, you can get rid of with conditioners, or yes, you can you know, get your fish used to that kind of water. And in a coral tank, sometimes it's different because maybe you want a dirty tank if you're doing a softy tank or whatever. For macroalgae, I don't always worry about keeping, you know, like a macroalgae tank. I would probably use conditioned tap water in certain situations, but for seahorses, I just personally would recommend going RODI. There's, I'm sorry, yeah, RODI for the TDS 0 water that you can then build from there. Because if you don't know what's in it, or if there's things you don't know and are bad, then it's just going to cause you a lot of trouble. People don't get how the nutrients add up so quickly in a seahorse tank because of all the eating. So I'm just all about starting with as few extra problems as possible, if that makes sense. So if you live in an area of really clean water, it's a different story, you know, or if...
My TDS at the highest is only 104.
Really? Out of the tap?
Yes. We get water from the Great Lakes. We get it from, one feed comes from Lake Ontario, the other one from Lake Huron.
Yeah, but I mean, even when you're, you know, your tap water, wouldn't you filter it anyways just for other reasons aside from nutrients? I mean, I'm just thinking of all the...
Drinking and that?
Not for drinking, for an aquarium.
Oh, well, I never did until I got the RO, and that wasn't until after I got seahorses. So for the first couple decades with the reef tanks, I never used it.
And why did you switch with the seahorses?
Well, I still had coral tanks at that time, and just wanted to see if there was really a difference.
Okay.
I consider the RODI as a great leveler because while you can have tap water with great variances from depending on where you're getting your water from, once it goes through the RODI, then you should all be basically the same.
Yes, agreed. And that's the thing is even in an area where you have really good water just out of the tap, the thing is you don't know when they treat it, or you don't know when, you know, pollution has taken some effect down the line somewhere or whatever. By the RODI, what did you call it? A safety net? What did you say it was? An equalizer?
Yeah, that's
equalizer.
Right. Equalizer.
Yeah, that's...
So we did, our government here in Canada did a study where they tested all the brands of bottled water that are available in Canada, and they compared it to major cities, the water in major cities. And a lot of the water in the major cities was just about the same level as most of the bottled water, although there was some bottled water that was pretty bad. But London's water was better than anybody's.
Wow.
And they talked about the fact that the type of treatment plant that they use on the water coming from the lakes and then putting it out before it got to us, that was the reason why it was so good. But people still buy bottled water thinking that it's better than the tap water, and it isn't.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And we won't get into the comparing the whole body to the fish tank again. We won't go there. But with seahorses, especially if you're talking about a seahorse tank, I'm just going to go ahead and say, yeah, you really do need to go with RODI water just to be safe. Just
it gives
because
you an edge that you don't have without it.
it what?
It gives you an edge to the good that without it you don't have.
Right.
And then the seahorse keeping take everything you get.
Right. And I mean, you know, there are a lot of places and people that will promote using natural salt water because they can go outside and get it. That's different than someone talking about tap water. And with natural salt water, that's a whole different topic, so I'm not going to get into too much depth there. But the bottom line is that all of this boils down to if you know how to collect it right, if you know how to, you know, if you have experience with it and if you know what you're doing, then it's a different story than someone just going outside and doing it. Lucy lives near water also, and she still filters the water. Dan uses natural salt water, but he filters the water. He puts it through UV. I'm landlocked. Don't have water around me, so there's no way in hell that I would not use an RODI machine. No way. But, you know, to each their own, but I agree with Ray. An RODI machine gives you, is an equalizer, gives you a starting from zero playing field that just every little bit helps, and then, you know, you have fewer problems. I really agree with that. So, but we can talk more about, she said that would be the best beginner what would be the best beginner seahorse in your opinion? I need to get that darn website done. I think I've talked to you on Messenger, and I was going to send you some articles to look over, but I definitely, where do you live actually matters, because if you're in the U.S., I would say Erectus, Hippocampus erectus. If you're in Australia, that changes because, you know, you can't get Hippocampus erectus. So it depends on where you live, but overall in the U.S., I would say Hippocampus erectus. In the U.K., I'd say erectus. They are the most widely bred seahorses in the areas I just mentioned. So they're the ones that are extremely, we're very good at breeding them. There's been a lot of studies. There's been a lot of breeders with a lot of success with them. And always asking the breeder you're buying from is a good idea. But yeah, in the U.S., I would say the easiest is the Hippocampus erectus. And as soon as I get that site back up, you'll be able to see there. I've written quite a few articles on that and why. And they're just like little puppy dogs, and they come up and beg for food at the glass, and it's wonderful. And Felicia, the girl I keep asking to get in here and come talk to us, her seahorses are actually offspring of one of my pair. So it just shows that they're just very hardy seahorses. Abdominalis are extremely hardy if you can keep the temperature cool enough. So we'll have guides for each species and all of that. But Ray, what would you answer that? What species do you think is easiest?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't find one species much more of a problem than another, other than when you're racing the fry. My first species was reed-eye, and after that I had barbs and angustus. Then I got erectus, and then I had combs. Combs were the ones that I never managed to keep alive. But they were Asian imports. I couldn't find any captive bred.
That's why, right?
So I didn't succeed with the combs at all. But the angustus and the first barbs that I had, they came from, well, trying to think, Dr. Mick Payne's Australian company before he closed it down. I can't remember the name of that company now. But because he's closed down now, these barbs I got from Seahorse Australia.
Which is amazing. We love Seahorse Australia. But, yeah, I mean, right. It depends on where you're at. But in the U.S., I would personally say Hippocampus erectus. And that's a good topic for...
After, only to raise the fry. The reed-eye, I don't find any harder to look after than erectus.
And that's so funny because there are people that will just swear that reed-eye are just, you know, they're just too hard. I really think it depends on where, just where you're getting them and that
It's
kind
only
of
the
thing.
fry. When, like the reed-eye fry have to have small food because they don't hitch at birth.
Sure.
They're
Pelagic versus benthic seahorse fry make a huge difference, but I'm just talking about keeping them. There are people that'll swear they just cannot keep reed-eye alive in an aquarium, period. They always die on them. So, I don't know, but anytime you're going with captive bred, you're going to have a much, much, much better chance of doing well. And I'm actually seeing the Facebook comments again now. Sorry, guys. Holly said absolutely beautiful. How to lower phosphates and get rid of the grassy algae. I've done so more water changes and also blowing the rocks and it's still not working. Maybe can I use in seahorse tank? I didn't understand that part. But that's a really interesting thing, is that when you're doing a bunch of water changes, I know Ray pointed out that he doesn't ever do water changes to add things back to an aquarium, but it does. It does add things back to an aquarium. And so while you're doing water changes to remove phosphates, what was it?
Whether you need it or not.
Yeah. I mean, really, because you're doing a water change to remove phosphates, but then if there's phosphate or whatever in the salt.
Don't know it's needed.
Huh?
If you don't know that it's needed, why add it?
Right, but no, I'm saying like even just a basic water change with either your salt, artificial salt, no matter what, the chances are good that the minerals that are being added back in the water change are also feeding the algae, if that makes sense. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times. So and then there's the balance. That's a whole nother topic. I don't mean to put off your question, but that's like a whole thing we could discuss all night, Holly. So I'll talk to you on the side, and maybe we'll have a chit chat about that next week. How does that sound? And Ariana said, how long should I cycle the tank before I add seahorses? And what's the name of that? I'm not sure what name you're looking for. But as far as cycling the seahorse tank, Ray, what's your answer?
You cycle it until you've got 0 of everything, and then you challenge it, at least 2 parts per million ammonia, and make sure that it clears overnight. If it doesn't clear overnight, it's not cycled sufficient.
Agreed, 100%. There is no time that I can tell you this is how long you need to cycle a seahorse tank. He is absolutely correct. Huh?
Every system is different. Every system is
different. Yes, it depends on too many things to actually answer that question. But what he said, in case you couldn't hear him well, or I do have one of my very first videos. I talk about this. I actually walk through how I keep pre-cycled media and I test it. And I'm going to redo that video to be a little more clear. But what he said is, once you believe that the tank is cycled, whether you're using bacteria, whether you're using whatever method you're using, you need to add ammonia that equals up to 2 ppm and see if it can convert that ammonia all the way to 0 ammonia, 0 nitrites within 24 hours. That is the...
and 12 hours.
You said 12?
Yeah, I believe 12 hours, yeah.
I mean, we'll go with that. That's even a better answer. But bottom line is you just need to make sure that your tank is equipped and ready to handle the bio load of seahorses. So, I don't know. I'll try to write about and talk about that a little more for if you'd like. But, and guys, I am gonna, you know what? The wine glass is empty, so we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. Unless you had something else, Ray.
Nope,
or Tina.
Nope, we're all set.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't talk much with you, Tina. I would love to talk more with you and see your tank some more. It looks like it's doing fantastically, but it's just like almost 11 o'clock, guys. So, any thoughts, suggestions on next week's topic, or if I should get a guest up in here, please let me know. If you want to hear more about specific things, comment, and be sure to thumbs up, subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff, and come back. Anyone is welcome to join these streams as long as I don't have a guest. And we love your contributions. And thank you again, Ray and Tina, for both joining tonight, and everybody in the audience. So I will bid you all adieu. Happy Wine Wednesday. See you next week. Say bye, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay.